Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know that I feel good doing things I never thought I
Hello,
could.
hello, welcome
Smiling
everybody.
never.
Oh my gosh, do we have an amazing Real Talk show for you all today? I am so excited about this, and it couldn't come at a better time as we approach the year end, reflecting back on 2024 and looking ahead to the year coming up. It's going to be absolutely extraordinary. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I really appreciate you spending your time with us today. For those of you, maybe it's your first Real Talk, maybe you don't know who I am, just so you're aware, my name's Abby Welts. I'm the National Director at Homes for Heroes and your host for today. The purpose of Real Talk is really for us to be able to pour into real estate and mortgage professionals to talk about what's going on in our industry, to identify maybe some of the challenges and obstacles that we're all facing along the way and how we can turn those into opportunities. So at the end of the day, we're really working together as a united team to raise the bar in our industries and better serve our clients. That's the whole purpose of the show and intention of it is to be better and do better as a professionals individually and collectively as an industry as well. You're going to spend the next 60 minutes with us. So, a couple of quick housekeeping things before I go ahead and introduce our very special guest. One, I want to encourage you to be present. All too often, I know I have it right here next to me with my phones in hand. We multitask or have a bunch of windows up or have different sounds going on around us. Really, truly turn it off. Be present for the next 60 minutes and invest in yourself and your own success. It's only going to help you pour into your clients and show up as a better professional for them as well. So take the time to invest in you and your success over the course of the next 60 minutes. Pick out just a couple of things. Get your notepads ready to go and listen to the things that will, one, resonate with you, and two, really play to your strengths too. What we want you to be able to do is take notes so that after this webinar, you can implement and take action upon the things that you hear, learn, want to add into your business, whatever it may be, to help you get to that next level of success that you are shooting for. Another thing I want to encourage you to do, this is one of my favorite things about doing a live webinar with you all, is utilize the chat feature. This is kind of like a little mini networking area that you can do. You can introduce yourself. You can say if you're a real estate or mortgage professional, maybe where you're at. Really utilize that chat. And then throughout the whole show, I'd love for you guys to put in ahas, key takeaways that you've got, something that really hits you that you want to implement. The more you use that and reiterate some of those key moments that you have during the course of the next show, the more likely they are to really get ingrained in you and so that you can implement them as well. So use that chat feature along the whole way and also use it for questions. We'll be monitoring it throughout the show too and pulling in any questions that you might have into our conversation. All right. Way more than you need to hear from me. Let's go ahead and get this real talk started. Today, we have the incredible privilege of diving into the brilliance and expertise of someone who truly knows how to inspire, how to ignite, and empower the one and only Valerie Garcia. Val is a world-renowned speaker, coach, a best-selling author, which if you haven't gotten her book, We're Gonna Need Cake, I definitely highly recommend it. And she's helped thousands of people create extraordinary customer experiences and build authentic, joy-filled businesses. With over 20 years of experience in the corporate world and nearly a decade as an entrepreneur, she is a master at turning chaos into clarity and fear into forward momentum. Val honestly has a way of making the messy parts of leadership feel doable. And today she's sharing her signature strategies for creating a business plan that doesn't just sit on a shelf, but actually transforms the way you work. I can't wait for you to hear from her. And I am honored to call her a friend, a powerhouse collaborator, a bucket filler for myself. And I know for so many others that follow her on social. So Get ready for a session that's equal parts inspiration and action-packed insight. I hope you guys are ready. Let's go ahead and set ourselves up for success, whatever that may look like for you in 2025 and beyond. Please join me in giving a warm welcome by showing her some love in the chat, in the comments, in the reactions. The one and only, very special, Valerie Garcia.
Hi. Oh my gosh, that was quite the introduction.
Well, you are absolutely deserving of it, and I can't wait to hear everything that you share with all of us today.
Well, I'm excited to be here. This is one of my favorite topics, honestly. And I always get kind of a little like, I geek out a little bit this time of year, like, oh, we get to plan. We get to look forward and start fresh. And so, yeah, I'm excited to chat about this.
Hey, me too. I am such a nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I'm glad I have a fellow geeker outer at this time of year.
Well, can I ask a question of the audience?
Absolutely.
I'd love for you guys to if you had to say where you're at in your business in terms of planning for 2025, if one is don't know, Val, haven't even looked at that, not thinking about it, and a 10 is like, wow, over planner here, I've got it all and spreadsheets. Where would you fall in terms of like where you are with a business plan or sort of a general plan for your business? Some of you might be like, keywords, I don't like planning at all. Yeah, we've got some zeros, threes, fives, started budgeting. Okay, that's a good place to start. Some fours, um, lots of zeros. Okay, all right. So we're all over the place, but lots of people who are like, kind of, sort of, maybe a plan. If you see a few sevens in there, that's good too. But all right, so that's good. It's good to know. We've got a bunch of people that are like, I don't know. So we're going to talk about where to get started.
I love it. I love
Love
it.
that.
Well, if you want to, would you mind sharing before we go ahead and jump into like the techniques and tactics? Let's dive into why this is even important, right? Why do you believe in having a business plan and having that be either essential or important for long-term success in our careers, in our businesses?
Yeah, great question. So I started in real estate 27 years ago. And I basically started where most people start, which is by the seat of my pants. So no real plan. No one really taught me about budgeting or taxes or about recurring expenses. Nobody really ever taught me how to have a marketing plan. It was really just sort of like talk to people, you know, like do the things that you're supposed to do, and it'll happen. And I really kind of operated that way for probably a decade. And then I consciously sought out some mentors that were really good at things like time blocking or expenses and said, it's about time that I actually put a real plan into place. And then when I kind of left the corporate real estate space and went on my own, I sat down with an accountant who was like, "Yeah, you're really going to need to have a solid plan here." And that's when I realized even my cobbled together plan wasn't great. Um, and having a real conscious plan for my business has made a huge difference. It has gone from freaking out about tax time and trying to just figure it out as I go to knowing exactly what I should be doing and how I should be spending my money on a regular basis throughout the entire year. And I've actually gotten to the place where I really enjoy planning. I really enjoy the process of sitting down and going, where am I at compared to where I was, compared to where I want to go, and what do I need to do to get there? Because it allows me to sleep better at night. It allows me to kind of go, okay, I don't need to stress about this. I know that this is a repeatable thing. I know that when I hit the dips in my business, exactly what I need to do in order to have an upswing. And yeah, planning really is, it's critical. It makes the difference in your stress level and in your business success.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Having a plan is definitely something from a stress component, extremely helpful, knowing what's a priority and what's not, right?
Yeah.
So you don't cause yourself all that worry, which, oh, it can be overwhelming at times. Being an agent previously myself too, you just do.
Yeah. Yep.
No real direction sometimes. So the
Yeah.
intentionality of it really helps helps you focus. So I love that. I also know a lot of people, which I saw in the chat, answered zero or they're just kind of starting out. And I think sometimes that comes with fear of the unknown or fear of just not knowing where to start. So you can have the whole paralysis by analysis component come into play, especially if you are a big planner and you're like, there's so much, right?
Yeah.
So let's make them a little bit less intimidating, a little less fearful, a little less overwhelming, and keep it simple. So, best way to start for anybody to put something into action and actually implement and use it. I know you had mentioned you've got three things that you think are the most important to include. You want to start with your three things?
Yeah. So, I totally get the overwhelm. I've been working with business owners and especially realtors and lenders for years on business planning. And it can get a little bit scary and overwhelming because we think business plan, what does that even mean? Is it like, is there a form? Is there a template? Like, where do we start? And really, a business plan is simply just a step by step guide for you managing the three most important things in your business, the three most critical ingredients, if we were. So, the first one of those we're going to start with is your time. Your time is the most important, the most critical resource that you have, and how you are going to spend it determines whether you're going to have success or not. And one of the things I learned early on was time is one of those things that we think we've got more of than we do. And we think that we have a better handle on it than we probably do. But we also are told all these conflicting things. Like time management there's whole courses around that. And time blocking seems really scary. And especially in our industry, we kind of operate on busy schedules and then slow schedules. So we kind of go back and forth between the two. There's never really a happy medium. And time blocking doesn't necessarily always feel super practical. So, one of the very first and best things that I've learned about managing our time is simply to break it down into tiny pieces. So, sometimes we think, oh, I'm going to time block this whole day to do this thing. But that never happens because it's not practical. You're going to get a phone call, you're going to get an email, something's going to blow up, something's going to start on fire. And boom, there goes the whole day. And so then we go, well, that plan's out the window and we never really come back to it. So, one of the very best things that I've learned with time is take a small chunk, 20 minutes. We'd be amazed what we can do in 20 minutes. And I actually set a timer. I have an egg timer on my desk that I literally turn and press. Got it for $6 on Amazon. Some of you are thinking, oh, I'll just use my phone for a timer. The problem with that is now you're holding your phone. And when you're holding your phone, guess what you do? You look at your notifications. So I just literally, turn on my egg timer and focus for 20 minutes. If I can do one thing with intention for 20 minutes, I'm generally going to accomplish the hardest part of it. I'm going to start with sort of this morning, I have 3 emails that I need to clear out of my inbox, right? I love Elena's suggestion there. Alexa's great for that too. She sits next to me on the other side, right? So that's good. But I try to avoid my phone for the notification reasons. But if you can have a timer and set it for a couple of minutes and focus on that one thing, and generally it's that one thing you're avoiding. I love that expression around eating a frog. Some of you have probably heard this. If you eat a live frog first thing in the morning, nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day. So what is that frog, that thing that's sitting in your inbox, the thing that's been sitting on your to-do list that you've been putting off because you don't want to do it or because you think it's really complicated or it's kind of scary? Chances are, if you spend a concerted 20 minutes without interruption, you're going to make a huge dent. You'd be amazed at how much you can do with an intentional 20 minutes, right? And Sean is right. The more you put it off, it gets bigger and scarier. And typically, you're going to find that it's really not as complicated to complete as you thought. We've made it more complicated in our heads. And most of our procrastination that we put things off is fear. Like, literally, like 80% of procrastination is fear. Oh, that's really scary. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. And so we just keep putting it off and it just keeps moving from to-do list, our inbox. So when it comes to our time, break it down into a small piece. Look at what is the one thing you can do with the most intention and set a timer. for me, that's been a game changer. I'm never going to block off hours in my calendar. I'm never going to successfully block days. I'm never going to successfully focus for that long. But in small, dedicated increments, I can make huge changes.
I can't even summarize that. That was put so perfectly. But I do. I am a huge time blocker and I do have the ability to do 1 and 2 hour chunks, but anything beyond that, right?
Mm.
It's just something's going to come up. Yes, there could be other fires that need that. And then you have that lure of the distractions that we're all
Yeah,
inundated with day in and day out. So I love that component of 20 minutes, right? Start with the thing that you're avoiding, because that's really where the magic happens typically. And make a dent in it. It doesn't have to be done. It just
yeah,
needs to get started.
yeah,
So we talk about that
yeah,
a lot with our kids at home too. The more you put it off, the more you live in your brain and the scarier the story gets. And then if you just do it, it's a lot less scary than that too.
yeah. And Greg's got a great question. He says, do you schedule certain tasks for each day, or do you block 20 minutes as the day or week brings you items? It's a great question. I kind of sometimes do both. Typically, my mornings start out with a 20-minute intentional, like non-distracted focus on the things that are the most urgent. So, what are the things that are in my inbox? I run inbox zero. For those of you that don't, if you have 3,268 emails in your inbox, y'all, that is your New Year's resolution for this coming year. Clean them all out, put them all in archive, and start fresh and start some folders and get them out of your inbox. One of the biggest time sucks for us, 24% of our day statistically is spent on junk email, right? So biggest thing that's made a huge change for me is I go to unroll.me. If you've never done this, it's free. Unroll.me, not .com. Unroll.me. Put in your email address. It will pull up every single email list that you are on, Walmart.com and Amazon and every place you've ever bought something from. And you can click all the ones that you want to unsubscribe from in one go. So yes, unroll.me. I go in and I put my inbox or my email address in there regularly, and I just start unsubscribing from the junk, because now I'm going to spend less time in the morning cleaning out my inbox and less time trying to find something. And that's generally the stuff that cuts into my 20 minutes of intentional, like I need to make a dent in my correspondence or whatever. So get rid of that stuff that you're consistently, like, even things that I subscribed to a year ago that I was like, this is great. I really love hearing from my, favorite chef every day. She's going to send me this recipe and I'm going to love it. But now I found that like a year later, I'm just every day like, delete that, delete that. You know what? It's okay to unsubscribe. You can. You're allowed. You're an adult. Clean out your inbox, right? Spend less time on those little things that distract you. And those time sucks really add up, right? So when I start in the morning with my 20 minutes of non-interrupted, just clean out my inbox, which is typically what I do, I'm not going to sit there and spend it on junk stuff, right? So it's unroll.me. You can always re-enroll. You can also put those into a separate folder so you can stay and signed up, but put them all in a rolled up folder. So you can go in and read all of those later when you're sitting there scrolling and watching TV. So yeah, clean out your inbox. That makes a huge difference. And then if I have a particular task, as Greg was asking, that I know that I've been putting off, I'm going to schedule a 20-minute, just a deep dive on just that with no interruptions. And I literally go onto my laptop or my phone and hit do not disturb. I don't put it in airplane mode. I just hit do not disturb. And for 20 minutes, the world is not going to end. Nothing's going to burn down. I'm not going to miss, anything. But those notifications aren't going to be dinging at me. And I'm really going to be able to focus for 20 minutes.
Mm. Well said. I do have a question for you about that as well. Great questions. Keep them coming through chat. As you can see, we're both monitoring it too, which is great. Um, for your 20-minute time blocks, some people are morning people,
Mm.
the majority of them. Some people are actually a little bit more alert and um, ready to work and do things at night time. And I think sometimes it depends on your lifestyle and what's going on in your life at the current time, and all of that. So what would be your recommendation for scheduling out those 20-minute blocks? Or do you think you just do it once in the morning and you get it on your calendar for that day? Or are you looking at the week ahead? What does that process look like?
Yeah, I don't really think there's a rule. I think whenever you are the most effective, use that time of the day. So I am 0% effective between about 2:30 and 4:30 in the afternoon. Like I don't schedule meetings then. I might take a nap, to be honest. Like that is sort of my no-go zone. And so I know that about myself. I also know that I'm really effective between like 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. So like I'm going to get a whole chunk done and then I schedule some meetings. But I'm also really effective at responding to emails late in the evening while I'm sitting around on the couch. And so I schedule them, I'll schedule them to go out the next morning. I'm really aware of the fact that I'm responding outside of my business hours. So I don't want to train people that I'm emailing outside of my business hours. So I'm going to use Gmail to schedule that mail to hit their inbox at 8 in the morning or whatever. That's a feature that's already built in. So not only does that allow us to use our time when we're most effective, but it's allowing us to be really intentional with teaching other people how to use our time. So if it's not an urgent email and I don't need to get back to somebody tonight, and I'm emailing them in the middle of the night because that's when I'm most awake and effective, I'm going to schedule it to go out during the day so that I'm not giving them the impression that I want to be talking to them at 2 a.m. So, keep those boundaries in place while we're talking time. Time is our most valuable resource. You teach people how to treat your time and how to spend it, right? It is one of our currencies. So use it just like you would money.
Hmm. I love that. Lead by example and how you want to
Yeah.
be treated by how you're treating others, for
Yeah.
sure. The golden rule, of course, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Any other, I mean, you've got unroll.me, which was amazing, right? Using the scheduling feature in Gmail, which is very easy to do.
Yep. Yep.
Any other golden nuggets from a time perspective, whether it's prioritizing or saving time?
I think the most important thing is really just know what your time suck is. For me, it's procrastination. I've always said procrastination is my drug of choice. I know that about myself, though, and I know when I get to that point why I'm procrastinating. Some of you, your time suck might be you say yes to everything and say no to nothing. And while that can make us feel like we're super generous with our business, it can also mean that we're disappointing a lot of people. So, do you have boundaries in place for your business? Do you have boundaries in place for your time? Is your time suck that you are constantly asking other people for advice but never implementing? Is your time suck that you don't keep a regular schedule at all? So just knowing what your particular issue is with time can just mean you can be more intentional about solving it, right? Um, I think that's probably a key indicator for me when I'm starting to procrastinate on everything that I'm not spending my time wisely.
Yeah. No, I love knowing that about yourself, right? That's the first step in identifying how to overcome that. And that you mentioned a couple of different ways, whether it's procrastination, whether it's feeling like you have to get every tiny, minute detail answered before moving
Yeah.
on, right? That's my big one. Or not having a plan at all. Because I heard there's a statistic, it takes you about 15 minutes to hop back into actually doing a deep dive into something once you get distracted by something else. So if you've got 20 minutes and you're still being distracted, like it's going to take you 15 minutes for your brain just to get back into where it was before. And that can eat
Yeah.
through your time too, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And I love that Darlene mentioned ADHD. Like, Darlene, I don't think it's just for those of us over 50. I mean, I think there's a whole lot of other things that kick in at that point. But I think, like I heard a stat the other day that approximately 50% of realtors have ADHD. Like it's a very common thing in our industry. We are people that are used to running with our hair on fire all the time, and that feels normal. So consistent intentional focus can actually feel weird and stressful. And so that's why I think doing those in like the small increments, that 15, 20 minutes set a timer allows us to actually start to retrain our brain. I can focus on something for a concerted amount of time because I know that I'm going to be able to pick my phone up and check my notifications after that.
Yeah, it is a muscle. You've got to work it to grow it for
Yes.
sure. All right, tons of great stuff on time, but that was just the first step
Yeah.
of three. Let's
Yes.
tell me more.
Yeah.
What's
I like
number
I like
two?
starting with time because I think a lot of times we're like, oh, I just need to write some goals. And then, that's my business plan. It's not just like writing goals. It's how are you actually going to accomplish them? If you don't spend your time well, you won't get anything done.
Right.
So we start with time. The second most important ingredient in our business plan is going to be money. While time is one of our biggest currencies, money as well, right? And so money is something that we need to plan for the year to come, and not just I want to make money, but how are we spending it? Do we know how it's coming in? Do we know how it's going out? Right? We have to know both in order for us to manage our money well. And this is the one thing I wish I had been taught earlier in my career. If I had one magic wand to go back and fix, it would have been I wish someone had sat me down and taught me how to manage my money earlier. A lot of it was just, hey, I'm making money so I can spend money. Yay. And that is what typically gets us into trouble, especially around tax time. Oh my gosh, what happened to it all? Right. And so money is something that we actually have to plan for. We have to plan for how we're going to make it, how we're going to spend it, where it's going to go. And so one of the things that I find is really important is to, if you're new, this is a little more difficult. But if you've been in the business a year or two or more, go back and figure out where your deals are coming from. Go back and see where your clients are coming from. That is a routine that is going to consistently grow. And so if you are consistently getting clients from the same places, those are muscles you need to continue to work as well. It's, hey, most of my clients are coming from friends of my kids at their school. Great, I need to get involved in more things there. I need to talk to more of those people, right? So knowing where your business has been coming from is really critical. Looking backward in order to move forward makes all the difference when it comes to money. And then you have to have a system. So not just a plan for where it's coming from, but what are we going to do when we make it? I love the Profit First system. If you haven't read the book Profit First, game changer, y'all. Like, it really walks you through the process of having a system. When I first thought about money as a system, I was like, what do you mean? But it literally walks you through the process of having 5 bank accounts, 5 sections in your bank account, however you bank. And then when your money comes in, portion of it goes here, portion of it goes here, portion of it goes here. And this is where you spend your money and how you spend your money. So it's kind of like the envelope system. If you were ever like a kid and your parents gave you money and you had to put it in envelopes for certain things. But honestly, I've found that it's the best process for me and my business is to have a system. So every time money comes in, I follow the same process. No matter how much the money is. So you give me $100, I'm going to do the same thing as if you give me $10,000. Bruce, question, who's the author of the book Profit First? Michael, somebody?
Yeah, Mike,
Mike,
shoot, I just
Mike
said it up.
something?
Mike
Mike something.
Lau, I'm gonna butcher the last name.
Yeah,
Mike
I think
M.
that's why I don't remember it. It's hard to pronounce, but Mike something. But Profit First, if you just look it up, it's amazing. And that system has literally changed my whole life and my whole business. It really teaches you how to create that consistency when it comes to your business, just like you want that consistency when it comes to your boundaries and your time, consistency when it comes to your money. Where does it go? Where does it come from? There we go. Michaelowitz. There you go. Michaelowitz? Who knows? There you go. But just like the timer, when it comes to time, there's one small thing that is absolutely like nailed it for me in terms of money. And that is, and I treat it like a game. So this is kind of fun. This is where I get a little nerdy. I make a list of every single thing that I spend money on for my business. And I try and figure out what I can get rid of. And I usually do this around December every year, where I will go in and I'd be like, okay, every app, every tool, every website, every small expense, even that 99 cents that I pay every single month for extra space in my like Apple, drive, whatever it is. Like I go through and I make a list of every single thing. And I do this for two reasons. One, because now I know what I'm writing off, right? So I go through all my credit card statements and I take off everything. But then I figure out like, what am I spending money on that I'm not using? What is that tool I signed up for, that app that I signed up for, that 99 cents thing I signed up for that is going to become a recurring expense for me, that is going to renew next year? And I'm not even going to know, it's going to keep coming off my credit card. And what can I get rid of? This is where it gets fun for me because now I can start saving money. So I go through and I'm like, okay, this tool that I pay for does this, but this tool that I pay for also does that. And it does this. So this one can go. Or this app that I signed up for, this streaming service, this thing that I thought was cool that I haven't used, it can go. Right. And so I kind of make a game of it. How much money can I save every year? How much stuff can I get off this list before I file my taxes? What can I remove before it auto renews? And every year, if I can get rid of at least three things, I feel like I'm winning. And so a lot of maybe you're paying for Canva Pro. Canva has added some amazing tools over the last couple of years. There's some video editing in there. There's there's some great stock photos. So if you're also paying for some of that stuff in another tool, you can get rid of it. So that for me has been game changer when it comes to expenses. So now if I do that now, when I go to file my taxes, I've already got a list of all the expenses that I'm writing off. But now I also know I've crossed a few of those things off for next year.
I love that. So you're already ahead, which is amazing.
Right.
What a great way to start the year.
Right. And we all have recurring expenses that we are not paying attention to, that we don't need, that, I bet you every single one of you could at least look at the things you're paying for right now and go, oh, there's at least one of these things that you can get rid of. Every once in a while, I try and can at least one streaming service. Like if I haven't logged into it in a couple of months, I could probably get rid of it. And then even if I need it again, I can probably sign back in and save money later on a promo. So get rid of it if you're not using it.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. That's all that you're sharing, whether it's time or the money component, which are both fundamentals that you really have to master for this too, are all about not just consistency, but the discipline and doing it. It is just having that commitment, like we talked about earlier, and committing to yourself and setting yourself up for success. It's having that disciplined approach of either guarding your time or leading by example with how you want people to respect your time if you've got those boundaries, or even with money, that disciplined approach of putting however much percent in X, Y, and Z accounts so that you're set up for success come year end. It just takes practice and it's totally doable. So I
Yeah.
love all of these things. I do need to definitely go through let's figure out what we're paying for, because you look at that credit card bill sometimes and you're like 99 cents, because I know the Apple storage exactly what you're
Yes.
talking about. And tech changes so fast that yes, there are different things that you can merge or use one instead of using two or three for so quickly. I'm even thinking back to when Google, if you wanted a vanity URL and you had to buy that through GoDaddy and then you could put it in Google, but you had to then pay for like a new business account in Google. Like all of those things change so much that just taking the time once a year to do that, I think is really wise advice.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, GoDaddy. Like what a money suck. I have like 22 URLs that I've bought because over the years I'm like, oh, for sure I'm going to start a business with that name, or for sure I'm going to need a website like that someday. And then, the renewals just come through automatically and it's like another 13.96 and, $15 here. And I think, oh, well, whatever. But it adds up. It really does. And, a lot of it is just because we haven't taken the time to go through and really identify, do I really need like, I don't know, I couldn't even tell you some of the crazy URLs that I'm paying for every month just because, someday I might need those.
Uh-huh.
Get rid of them, like it's okay to let go a little bit. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Show yourself some grace. It's really okay.
Yes.
Ugh. Any other things that you wanted to drive home from number two, the money component of it that we might have missed?
No, I think really just having a system, and checking those small expenses, knowing where your money comes from. I think those are the three big things. Know where your money comes from so that you can do more of it, or know where your money is not coming from. And maybe you're doing a lot of that, but it's not panning out. Like maybe you're doing a lot of bulk mailing and that's not working for you. It's okay, again, to let things go and try something new. It's okay to remove things from your plate. I know sometimes we think, well, I've been sending those magnets out for years and somebody is going to miss them. Okay, great. So don't send them out. And when that one person calls you, you send them theirs, or better yet, you give them theirs over a coffee date and talk to them one on one, right? So much less expensive. So, give yourself that, again, that grace to remove things from your plate. Um, I think that's probably such good advice in all areas of our life.
Yeah, not just money too. I was just thinking about that as you're saying that because we talk a lot about whatever you end up saying yes to, you're also saying no to something else. And that's when it goes hand in hand with money and time
Yeah.
together. And this could be in what's a good return on investment for either of those fundamental things for you. I'm even thinking about like past clients. Who are your top referral makers for you? You might want to invest a little bit more in them as opposed to somebody that refers business elsewhere. Not saying that you can't have
Yeah.
friendships with them by any means, because everybody knows an agent, let's be honest. Um,
Yeah.
but really invest in those that invest in you. And that goes
Mhm.
from a business perspective and a personal perspective too, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Colleen's got a great question around how much to set aside. I mean, I don't think there's a set number for anybody. It's going to depend on your market. It's going to depend on what you do. It's going to depend on so many different things. But one thing I can say is, having a monthly, if not a quarterly plan for your marketing. Um, right. And again, percentage wise is it's going to vary widely depending on your market. If you work in a extreme luxury market, you're going to be spending a lot differently, not even more, but just very differently than someone else. And so really I would always recommend that you sit down and look at what have you spent in the past and what's working for you and how you want your marketing to allow you to interact with humans. I think that's the most important thing around marketing is some people think marketing is just you yelling your name at people so they remember it, but marketing is allowing you to interact with humans. You want it to lead to conversations. And so, does that marketing look like taking people to coffee 3 times a week? Does that marketing look like, you allowing yourself to brush shoulders with people at in-person events? Does it mean allowing yourself to interact with community events in a very intentional way? So you really need to decide what your marketing looks like and how it allows you to talk to humans. And then month by month or quarter by quarter, look at the year ahead and figure out how are you going to make that happen and where does that money need to go quarterly, at the very least. For me, that's one of the most important things is not just like, oh, I need to send mailers every quarter, so I'm going to spend X dollars on this. It's no, I really need to make sure that I intentionally talk to humans in this way. And so I need to put on this event, or I need to engage with this community initiative, or I need to take this many people to lunch, or I need to send, gifts, or whatever it looks like. So be
Mhm.
really intentional about how those marketing efforts lead to conversations.
Yeah, definitely a challenging question to answer, even from a percentage wise, just because there's so many different factors in it from a lifestyle, like how much do you need to
Yeah.
get out of your business for you in order to live, right? That's
Yeah.
so different for so many different people. And then what are your other expenses that you're doing? So that challenging question to answer, but I love your approach of look at what
Yeah.
you're doing now. What's that percentage look like? And then for you specifically, just because 20% is working for this guy over here doesn't mean that you need 20. Maybe you just need 8 and you're much more
Yeah.
effective with it. So.
And I think we go through seasons too. I definitely have seasons in my business that are investment seasons. So, like last year was a huge investment year for me. I had a book coming out. And so I wanted to revamp my website. I wanted to get some new photos taken. I wanted to have some videos done. I really wanted to like have some pieces of marketing put together. And so I knew that last year was going to be an investment year. And this coming year is going to be a recouping year for me. It's not going to be as much spending on things. It's going to be continuing to develop the conversations and the relationships that I created because of that investment. So, you really have to look at that too, is that not every year is it going to be a year where you have to spend a ton of money. You need to account for how are you recovering that? How are you recouping that? Is it a save year?
Mm,
And I think, or a save season, however long that is. I think it's really important for us to look at, allowing ourselves to spend our time and our money differently in different seasons.
hmm. Yeah, adaptability is key for that too. It does ebb and flow, kind of like our
Yeah.
day to day in our businesses as well. So
Yeah.
I love that. All right, we've got time, we've got money.
Yes. My favorite. The third ingredient is one that so few people actually build into their business plan. And I think it's one of the most important. Obviously, our success is going to hinge on how we spend our time and our money, but we also need to plan for our story. So, story is the third and also critical ingredient. And I love that we started talking about marketing because this is really when I say story, a lot of you are typically going to think marketing. I really think it's incredibly important for us to have a consistent story throughout our business. It's really incredibly important for people to understand who we are and what we do and why we do it. And so a lot of times we kind of play this one by the seat of our pants as well. We just post stuff on social media or make videos or send newsletters, and there's not really a cohesive through line on any of it. I really want to encourage you all to sit down and write a single sentence as you are creating your business plan. I help these kinds of people to create this kind of result. Like, and I know that you always want to say buyers and sellers, but can you get more specific? Can you get even more specific? Like, can you break it down to the smallest group possible? And that doesn't mean those are the only kind of people that you are going to serve, but the more specific you can get with your story, the more impactful you are going to be. So when I say I help um, people who own businesses, like that is not going to allow me to get specific with a story. And people are going to think, well, what do you really do? It's kind of like the Cheesecake Factory. You walk in there and their menu is like 38 pages long, right? They serve sushi and cheesecake and spaghetti. It doesn't make sense. And you look at it and you think, what do you do well? And so a lot of times what we don't do well in our marketing is have a really specific story. Um, and so what kinds of people do you most want to serve? And what is the ultimate result? And can you write that in one sentence? And maybe you have a couple of sentences throughout your marketing, but what is that one core purpose, that one core message? When you can get really specific about that, now your marketing starts to make sense, right? So, yes, exactly. Have your value built into your business plan because that is what everything else is going to hinge around. You're going to spend your money and your time making sure that that is the ultimate most important thing. So, if you say, I help um, people who are trying to get into the housing market in Topanga, California, under a price range of this, become investors or homeowners. Now you have really specific goals. And that doesn't mean those are the only people you're going to help, but it allows you to make really intentional conversations and really intentional decisions around your money and your time in order to get that one thing accomplished. And so I did this process last year and really worked hard at getting this dialed in. And it was difficult because I just wanted to start piling everybody into that group. Like I help all the people, right? And I really want to help all the people. but it doesn't allow my story to be cohesive and intentional. And so I really had to get to the point where I realized I help leaders who are navigating change. Like that is the biggest thing that I am focused on right now. And yes, I help other people and I'm talking to you all today, but the biggest group of people that I work with are leaders that are navigating change. So now when I start making decisions around the things I say yes to, is that going to allow me to help leaders who are helping people navigate change? Right. And so the more intentional and the more specific we can get, the better we are going to be with our story. So your first homework there is one sentence. Your second piece of homework is how do we now tie that story into our social media, into our videos, into the things that we do? So, a lot of us were posting on socials because we feel like we have to. One of my friends who's a brilliant marketer, he once said, and I wrote it down because I want to see it every day on my desk. He said, create stuff people want to see, not stuff we think we have to make. Oh, create stuff people want to see, not stuff we think we have to make. And that was such a good reminder because I'm like, oh my God, I think, and we're always thinking, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to get on Snapchat and I got to get on Threads and Blue Sky and I can't even keep track. And it is overwhelming. But what if we focus on smaller things and less and fewer things and did them better with more intention and give people what they really need and really want to see? And so when it comes to story, the one thing I always ask myself every time I post is, am I including the 3 W's? What, so what, and now what? This has like been a game changer for me for social, because if you look at what most people are posting on social, they're saying the what. Hey, I'm a lender. Rates have gone down today. I'm a real estate agent. I help you buy houses. And people go, so what? What do I do with that information? Right? I don't know if you have any Canadians on this call, but rates dropped a little bit overnight in Canada. And I think I've seen like 8,000 posts from realtors today in Canada saying rates dropped, but that's all it says. And I keep thinking, so what? Now what? Right? So those 3 critical ingredients every time you post. What do you want them to know? Why should they care? And what do they do with it? What, so what, now what? I keep those on a sticky note in front of me every day to remind myself if I'm posting something, include all 3 pieces in the story. That is how we immediately make our posts, our marketing of any kind better. What, so what, now what? And if you can include the other 2, the so what, the now what, you're light years ahead of your competition, because most of them are just saying what.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So many golden nuggets right there and there. I just want to see if I can recap some of the things that you shared about that. The first component was making your one sentence, which I think is it's really hard to do. And it's quite counterintuitive to what we think, because we think we've got to have this huge wide net that we can serve everybody. But in actuality, the more refined you get in who your audience is, the more effective that you get in speaking to them, connecting with them, serving them, just because you understand them so much better. And your business doesn't shrink because you shrink your audience. It actually amplifies and exponentially grows. And that is really hard to wrap
Yes.
your head around and trust in the process. So I love that
Yeah.
you started with that. I think that's so smart.
Yeah. It is hard. I mean, I do this all the time with people and they're like, oh, I serve buyers and sellers. I'm like, way too vague, way too big. Cheesecake Factory. And we're programmed to think it's got to be everybody. I got to be able to help everybody, or I'm not going to be able to survive. Now, you're actually far more likely if you niche. You're
Mhm.
far more likely to like succeed and also excel if you are like, there is a realtor in my town that is the teacher's realtor. His specific niche is he helps teachers. And he was never a teacher. It just so happened like his wife was a teacher or whatever. And he started, and now he literally markets as the teacher's realtor. He helps people who are teachers when they're moving or whatever. He knows their schedules. He knows their, specific like issues around what they can do during the day and what their day looks like, and gives them advice on, school districts and all of those things. And I just think, how great is that? Like, there's enough business there to go around.
Yeah, there always is. And it helps you identify what their challenges are so that you can be that specialist and that guide through them to help them overcome it for
Yeah.
sure. Um, your second, what was your second one? Oh, incorporating it. Actually do something with it
Yeah.
if you put in the hard work to come up with your one
Yeah.
sentence.
Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah, the
love it.
what and just it's going to give people that sense of purpose too. Like, oh, you do this because of this. This is what how you help those people accomplish. Yeah, it makes so much sense. And now you look at how you spend your time and your money and you incorporate those together, and it makes those decisions so much easier.
Yeah, and so much more effective and maximizing your return on investment, whether it's with money or with time and what you're
Right.
doing, for
Yeah.
sure. And then the what, so what, now what? It's going on my desk. I love
I'm
that.
telling you, it like game changer, honestly. And now that I've said it, you're going to start seeing it. You're going to start scrolling through Facebook and see people's posts and be like, so what now what? Like, there's these, close the house today. So what now what? Like,
Yeah.
helped, three people buy a house last month. Okay, like, why should someone stop scrolling and care? I love this because it allows me to help these people, and these are the people that I really focus on, and here's what you should do if you want to, like, the so what now what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It matters the most.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're
Yep.
just talking like everybody else. We do that a lot of talking about Simon Sinek's Start with Why at Homes for Heroes, just because the why and the purpose behind it is so intentional and it helps you establish rapport with people much more quickly when you lead with that as opposed to with the what. But flipping that on its head with what you shared from a social posting perspective is you don't actually have to always start with why, but you have to start with why it's important to them, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I see a lot of comments coming through too, like this is gold. So
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely incredible. Did we miss anything in the three things that you wanted to go
I don't
over?
think so. Time, money, story. I think those are the three key ingredients: time, money, story, and always just, break it into smaller pieces. I think everything we talked about can be really summed up that way. Smaller expenses, smaller time increments, smaller stories, smaller groups of people. I think a lot of times it gets overwhelming because we're really trying to create the Cheesecake Factory menu as our business plan. I'm going to serve all the people and do all the things and create all the marketing and get on all the socials. And oh my gosh, we're not going to do any of that. If the goal is to do all the things, we will do none of the things.
Right.
So smaller pieces. Give yourself permission to focus on smaller pieces. You'd be amazed at how intentional you can be in smaller pieces.
Mhm. And how much more specialized you can be too, because
Yeah.
you can never be all things to all people. That's just
No.
not possible for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, Along your journey with how you've been having these conversations both with leaders and in our industry, a couple very quick wrap-up questions for you. Is there any, I know you mentioned some of them along the way, but any pitfalls that you've seen kind of a common thread or just missteps that you see often taken that you might be able to help somebody step around executing this?
I think the most common pitfall I see in our industry is always getting stuck in that, but this is how we've always done it, or this
Mm,
is how I did it before, so it must work going forward. I think, the biggest pitfall for any of us always can be getting really attached to our past successes. There's some great quotes around this that I cannot think of exactly as they are, but something like falling in love with our past successes is always, our downfall. And I think that's so true.
mm,
Like, oh, I did this last year and it worked, so that's all I'm going to do this year. Well, stretch a little bit, try something new, get out of your comfort zone. We are never growing when we're 100% comfortable.
yeah. Sage advice for
Yeah.
sure. Um, wow. And you just wrapped it up quite beautifully a couple of minutes ago with kind of your advice for people that are wanting to execute and do this business plan. I know you've got a very special offer for our audience today? You want to go ahead and share it? I've got the link queued up for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I don't have the link to drop in the chat. I don't know how
I
you're
do.
handling it. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So a couple of years ago, I put together a workbook for business planning in our industry. I kind of chucked all of these things we've talked about and all of my very best lessons and advice into one workbook. It's like 60 pages long. And yeah, we're going to give it away to everybody who's on the call today. So totally free. Please take it, download it, use it, give it to a friend, share it. There are some interactive worksheets in there that will help you figure out your profits. You can go through that profit first practice. They will help you figure out where your business comes from, help you sort your finances, take a look at your marketing, like literally everything we've talked about today in detail. Take those workbooks, download them, fill them out, use them as a jumping off point. Even if you even do portions of them, they'll give you a great place to start.
I love that. Thank you so much for this offer. Lots of love coming through in the chat for that. It is a great jumping off point to really dive deep and take it 20 minutes at a time. Set that timer and
Yeah.
work that workbook this December to set you up for success in 2025. I really appreciate your willingness to share with our audience, and thank you for spending your time with us today. I've got a full page of notes as I usually do after speaking with you, honestly. So this was incredible.
Well, honestly, all of these lessons are things that I learned pretty much the hard way, and all things I wish I'd learned earlier. So, I mean, even if anyone on this call, if just take one thing away, right? Even if it's just, hey, I'm going to set a timer, or hey, I'm going to get my, you know, my expenses, recurring expenses, under control, or I'm just going to, have a different look at the things that I post. Like you'll be better off.
Yeah.
So yeah, just take one thing. Again, break it into smaller pieces.
Yeah. So true. For people wanting to connect with you maybe on social, would you mind sharing your handles?
Yeah, sure. I am Valerie Garcia Speaks pretty much everywhere. My website is valeriegarcia.com. Keep it nice and easy for you. And yeah, if you get my workbook, all my contact details will be on there as well. So please, yeah, download the workbook and use it and yeah, share it with a friend.
Mm, I love it. Well, Val, thank you so much for joining us today and for your infinite wisdom around this. I know you've poured your heart into some of the workbook that you're sharing with us. I know you too have walked the walk that you're sharing right now. So I appreciate you helping us raise the bar in the industry and become better individually and collectively as a whole. So appreciate you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Hey, I think someone noted in the comment that I think I set you guys up with a coupon code that I think they have to use in order to get the workbook for free. I can't remember if it was Hero or Heroes. Do you remember?
Let's see.
Or I might have just set it all as free. I don't know. Click
I think
check
you
it.
said
Oh,
it
right.
all as
Okay.
free
I
with
did
that.
set it as free. Good.
Yeah.
I think I was going to do a code and then we said, yeah, set it as free. So good. All right. Yay. Good. It's working. Love it
Yeah.
when it works. Love some technology that works. All right. Elena's already downloaded it. Awesome.
Technology is the biggest
I
challenge
know.
sometimes.
You always test these things and at the last minute you're like, oh, did that work? But yes. Yeah. And a couple of people asking for the link again. There it is from
Got it.
Abby. Yay. All right. Good stuff.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Val. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hopefully, you found it valuable and beneficial. Valuable. I totally didn't intend to do that, but it works with your name. So, oh, appreciate you more than you know, Val.
Oh, thank you again. Nice to see your face and all of you. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Make it a great one.
You know that I feel